a ho, 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 and a Merry Christmas to all of our listeners here today, and welcome to the very first edition of MarCloud Wrapped, where we're essentially going to be looking over the year at the whole world of Salesforce, account engagement, and Marketing Cloud, and what got us excited this year. So I am joined, as you can see, by some very esteemed guests. Very lucky to have everybody on the call today. So I'll let everybody do a round of intros. We'll start on the MarCloud side. Tom, if you want to take it away.
I'm Tom. Very happy to be with everyone today. I'm quite starstruck. So many good people on the call. Well, everyone. And actually, this is the first time me and Lara have been on a call together. And I'm very excited to be here. This never happened. But yeah, my background is in Pardot or account engagement. Sure, that will come up at some point with this call. Yeah, and founder of MarCloud.
Cool. And Triana?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Triana Jarman. I'm one of the senior lead consultants at MarCloud, currently on maternity leave, but making a special little guest appearance. And my background has mostly been always in marketing. And then a few years ago, made the shift into kind of the consulting world and specifically helping clients with account engagement, but also a bit of support with Sales Cloud as well.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you very much. And Lucy, over to you.
Also representing the Brits before we get to the stateside representatives here. So I'm Lucy. I head up operations at Salesforce Ben. It's been a rollercoaster of a year for us in a good way. But my background is as an account engagement Pardot consultant and also knowledgeable in Salesforce on that side as well. I founded The Drip, which until recently was a blog. Now it's been incorporated into the wider Salesforce Ben website, but it still exists in some ways. I have been a marketing champion since 2020, and I'm cross-cloud certified as well.
Cool. And can I just say with the rebrand as well, neon pink and neon blue just totally gets me every time. So I'm fully on board with the rebrand. It's top notch.
At one point, I'm not going to lie, I had to remove myself from the rebranding project because I kept saying, it looks like Barbie designed it. I'm glad it's come together in an adult way, but I was starting to really have doubts. But yes, it's the ups and downs of any rebranding project. But yeah.
No, I took it as 80s. That's why I was all on board with that. So
I'm doing for gamer, but
yeah.
Yeah,
well, the golden age of gaming with the 64 and the first SNES, we'll take that. So perfect. Lara, welcome to the call and thank you for your time. Over to you.
Okay, I'm Lara Black. I go back in Pardot because I'm going to call it Pardot. Marketing
still clinging on to that, right?
I've been a user since 2011 when my VP of marketing at the time, he's like, hey, I went to this conference and we're going to buy this thing called Pardot and you're going to learn how to use it. And I was like, oh, I better, learn what goes on. I spent a lot of time in webinars, like over and over and over again, learning new tricks and things. So yeah, I've been a longtime user and spent a couple of years as a consultant. And then I decided that I wanted to go back what we call client side because I didn't like billing hours. Personal preference there. But I loved getting to see what everybody did and the different things people sold. And so I've just always been a part of the community of people who just want to help other people. I've just always been part of, like, we call it the Pardashian Slack and, the chatter groups on the Salesforce forums and things like that. Pardot user group leader for years. So I do have my Pardot certs and I have a couple of Sales Cloud certs. I have the admin and advanced admin. So I come to a lot of like Salesforce development with, this is what marketing needs out of Salesforce, which is really unique sometimes, but I also can speak the language of the Salesforce admins, which helps a lot in my job.
Cool. That's awesome. Thank you. And Stephen, last but certainly not least, buddy. Hi. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, Stephen Stouffer. I'm the VP of Digital Transformation and Innovation at Sascend, which is a revenue operations agency. Similar to Lara, I mean, her and I have been gone back in the industry like for ages. So like I also came in around like 2011, 2010, I feel, just before actually ExactTarget picked up Pardot, and then they had them for like a year, and then Salesforce quickly scooped them up. So yeah, my roots is in marketing automation, specifically with Pardot or Marketing Cloud account engagement. But I've also used HubSpot and Marketo over the years. And within the last 3 years, I'd say of kind of my career, it's transitioned more into like traditional RevOps with a heavier focus on integrations and like custom API integrations and whatnot. So it's been fun to kind of see the transition from like just sending emails and batch and blast, from ages ago to, seeing personalization and then, integrations and then now more API work and of course, AI and all that fun new stuff too.
Cool. When you spoke at Dreamforce this year as well, which was like massive highlight and that was all AI driven as well, I guess.
Yeah, twice. They were silly enough to allow me to speak twice. So yeah, it was I know it was an honor to be there at Dreamforce, and I look forward to attending next year as well. So yeah.
Cool. Perfect. And you mentioned there that it's obviously transitioning away from just being batch and blast, and there's a whole host of toolkit that's like coming into like the marketer's pocket now. So what is it this year that you've played around with, had some fun with, that's really excited you this year?
Yeah, so I kind of have two answers. Of course, the AI craze has been just kind of, sweeping all industries. So like that's super exciting. But like one of the less, I guess, sexy things that I've been kind of excited about is funny enough around just like documentation. I feel like everyone talks about you have to document your processes, marketing automation and marketing ops teams have to like document. Like no one actually explains like how to do it well. And like when you've got these complex systems and processes that you have to like, and that overlap into different departments and stuff, like how do you actually document that well? And this year, I think was the first year that me and my team have actually figured out how to actually document stuff really well. And we've used Miro and Notion as kind of our two tools to do that. So I'd be happy to share some templates that we built with like your audience here. But yeah, that has been like kind of a breakthrough moment where it's like, okay, we don't just talk about it now, but we can actually do it really well.
Yeah, I feel like documentation is always a bit of an afterthought, or certainly consultant side as well. There's definitely consultancies out there that treat it as almost like an add-on or an upsell. Like if you want this documented, then pays for it. But it's so crucial. Like, and to do it well, I'd love to. Maybe that's a podcast episode all in itself there. But yeah, Notion is one of those tools that I've not really got stuck into, but I'm aware of its capabilities. I think I've just not given it the time of day, but I'm aware of how powerful it is. So how have you used Notion there to help with documentation?
It's about giving contextual context to the person of what it is that you built and where it fits into like the larger story, right? That's the piece that I feel like nobody can really do, and not really nobody can do well, but it's really hard to do, right? Let's say you build like a lead routing rule, right? But you've got 4 different teams and whatnot. You got like 6 different marketing automation programs that like feed into this routing rule, and you make one little update somewhere, but like, how do you document that? So like just having text isn't enough, because when someone reads like a document or a paragraph of text, it's like, oh, I get the change, but like, I still don't understand where this fits into the larger picture of everything else going on. So that's where I think Miro can really help, because you can wireframe out like lead flows and whatnot. And then Notion gives you basically a hub repository of all of your other assets and documentation that you may have, PDFs, Miro boards. You can like iframe stuff into Notion, which is really cool. And you can almost create like a microsite for your documentation, which I love.
Yeah, one of my ex-colleagues swore by Notion and showed me the power of it. And like I say, I can see it. I just haven't given it the time of day, really.
It's great. No affiliation. I should get like a promo code.
If I could jump in just very quickly, we've tripled in headcount, quadrupled in headcount since 2020 every year at SFB. I base our whole company documentation on Notion.
Wow.
Right.
Lucid chart in conjunction with Notion.
Yeah.
There's so many Google Docs flying about, whatever, Word documents, Google Doc, whatever. That is the source of truth. I'm like, that is where you go. And it's so easy to navigate between pages, collapse things, search the whole thing. So yeah, Stephen, thumbs up.
There you go. Notion.
I'd give Notion the massive thumbs up.
You want to sponsor a podcast in the future? I hear that there might be a group of folks here who would be willing to do that.
It's honestly true. Whenever we get someone new on board, we just go, there's what you need to know in there. If it's not in there, you might find something in the shadow of Google Drive somewhere, but is it up to date? No, all managers need to keep Notion up to date. That's the rule.
I love it.
Interesting. I think we need to. I saw Tom's eyes dart towards another direction as if he had a second
Going on the
screen.
list.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm head into documentation at the moment, so we use Lucidchart, and I just can't live without Lucidchart at the moment. I'm creating so many diagrams, so I'm fully with you on documentation. Probably an unsexy topic, but get it right.
No, totally. It's a skill as well. Lucidchart is a skill. Yeah. Like I said, I use Lucidchart daily. Lucidchart. People have said did you just say Lucy chart? And I'm like, no, Lucid chart.
But definitely patent that. Get your hands on that Lucy chart.
No, it's just because I spend so long in there, just banging on about my diagrams. But there we go.
I can imagine each scrum every morning, just you showing off your latest diagram. Look what I've done. It's cool, yeah.
Is though. A picture speaks 1,000 words.
It's true. It's very true. Lara, what has excited you this year?
Getting back to some of the basics. So I started a new role being a director of marketing ops, and getting back to the basics for this new company and standing up things that seem like marketing 101, but aren't until you've experienced a company that has it. So documentation is huge. And that's as simple as, what is every web page we have? When was the last time it was updated? Google rewards, updated content, relevant content, et cetera. But also what are the inter-site links? What are the Pardot assets we have? Where do they go? Is it efficient? Is it working with Google Analytics, the G4 web tags and things like that, GA4? But doing the basics in the tools that we have, because every company has a budget. I don't have a budget for Clearbit plus this, plus that, plus this other thing. So building what I can in the tools I have, and without doing a ton of code. So I will plug my favorite thing is building data cleaning processes in Pardot, so that every prospect who touches Pardot, hopefully everyone in Salesforce with an email address, if they have bad data, they have the wrong spelling of a country, or I'm uploading a list into Pardot because Pardot dedupes my list by email address, that I'm bringing in wrong data, but it's all getting cleaned before it goes into the system, Salesforce. But also, let's take a look at when was the last time somebody actually cleaned the data in Salesforce? Oh, you did Never Bounce about 5 years ago? Yeah, it might be a time to run a list through Never Bounce again. Minimal impact on budget, but has so much impact on what we can do. And just really getting back to basics it's fun for me in the building and the teaching the new people, and just the impact that it has downstream, because now we can reliably run reports that are hey, in this specific geographic region, these are really resonating. And I can actually run those reports because the data is accurate. It's dumb how excited I get about data accuracy, but it just makes my life so much easier. So
speaking of
important,
Never Bounce, Google is deleting a bunch of inactive accounts right now. So now is the time to do some data cleanup.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
And without having the clean data, doing almost anything else in these kind of platforms is pointless, right? Because you're sending emails to 1,000 people who, don't exist. You're running a report on those emails that was sent, and it's full of, bad data effectively on opens or anything clicks because it was clicked by bots or whatever. It just, if the data is not solid, anything else you do, it just, pointless.
And I mean, I know I've kind of been a broken record to various people I've worked with over years that email as a stat is you take it with a grain of salt. Opens, clicks are all off kilter. When we first started in email marketing in the early days of just batch and blast emails, your open rate was everything. Your click-through rate was everything. But as years have gone on, it used to be just we had to kind of side-eye Outlook because Outlook wouldn't load tracking pixels and things like that. But now we have, the iOS privacy things where they preload all images. So it looks like all of those open, Gmail, you don't really know what email client somebody's using because all the Gmail images are loaded using the same servers. So it all looks like it's online, Gmail app versus desktop. You don't know. So taking email stats with a grain of salt, but also looking at like, what is your click to open ratio? Do you have a good inbox rate? These are things that, you go deeper in your career, you understand more of these things, and they just have so much of a payoff in the basics of marketing is still, emails, nurtures, but getting them to the right people. But also, my favorite thing is just telling somebody like, let's just start. I don't care that you want to eventually build 15 things. We're going to start with something very generic and then build one at a time the next things to get these, as Stephen was saying, like 6 different programs feeding into a lead assignment rule. Like you have to start. You can't just be stopped because of indecision. You have to build somewhere.
That is so true. And I was just going to ask you then, like, what metrics you would look as a leader now. So now that what would you consider to be a successful campaign or a successful marketing department?
Yeah, because there's been a big uptick in like spam bots clicking every single link and that kind of stuff. It's on my radar that I want to figure out is there a good list out there of, these are the IP addresses of these tools, and can I put it into the Pardot visitor filter so that my email opens and clicks get ignored, the ones that are by bots get ignored. I haven't had the time to dedicate to looking for that list. Is it accurate? I also then need to prepare my team to be like, hey, there's going to be a whole bunch of fewer opens because we're going to be ignoring those bots, But looking at what the activities are of real people. So how is my call to action performing? Is it actually people setting a meeting with my SDR or just noise? Those are the things like when we celebrate, like my content team wrote these amazing tongue-in-cheek emails that got people laughing and actually replying and saying like, yes, I want a meeting. Those are the things that I'm looking for. Like, what are the real statistics? How many meetings did I get out of this? Not just clicks.
Cool. That's such a good tip. I think like trying to look for the real world actions instead of the opens and things like that. Almost sounds like a feature there that we should hopefully figure out one day, that they could actually have the IP addresses of all the potential spam bots. That would be a utopian thing, wouldn't it, if we could just remove them completely, right?
Yeah, I mean, so Pardot it was years ago now, but they did load in like 30 plus like IP addresses and ranges. And I remember the big day came, they were preparing us to be, but the thing is like all these tools, they get more clients, they need to add more, they get more robust. Like they're hopefully always going to be ahead of the spammers, which is what you want. But I don't know. It's always a little bit of game of catch up. But it also gets back to like my thought earlier about like cleaning the data. Like, am I actually marketing to my most engaged people? How am I measuring that? Well, am I measuring it by email opens? Is it swayed by bots, et cetera, et cetera? It's definitely been a year of data cleaning for me, and trying to figure out how to keep it going when I change focuses next year.
And I definitely think that not a lot of people actually have that thought process of how can we continually do it. The hope that they get it done right, and then the hope they get the account engagement forms done right, and sales teams are importing data that's good, and just happy days. So they feel like it's a one-time thing, a one-time event, clean it up, and then from that point on. But actually, it should be an ongoing thing, because, like you say, if it's bad data, it's essentially the foundation of everything, right? So if it's not good.
People who are in the data kind of understand it better than the people who are a bit removed from it. Like in my world, I started doing batch and blast emails. Like every job I got early in my career, I got because like, oh, you can write HTML, man, we need somebody who can run our emails. Like I needed to be able to code HTML emails by hand. But you learn a lot with exposure, and it comes down to like, okay, who's receiving the out of office replies? Are you updating them? Oh, are you using a tool that intercepts those and like updating them with the updated, job titles? Oh, this person is no longer here. Like there are tools that can automate that for you. I didn't have those available to me early in my career. They didn't exist, or they were out of the budget range. So like automating manually, like here's the new ones, here's what I need to update. But you learn a lot by being on the receiving end of those bounces. Like people get promoted, people leave companies. I had responses that are like, so-and-so passed away, and now their new person is this person. Like your database goes bad at a surprising rate. And so your marketing efforts are only as good as the quality of data. So partnering with a vendor who can say, is this company even in business? Like NeverBalance can do the pings to the the DNS, the text records and everything that say like this company doesn't have a valid MX record, and saying like, oh, okay, that the company's probably out of business. Maybe they got bought. This company is in business. And then you can take them to a more expensive tool. Like we use 6 Sense Sales Intelligence to be like enriching those for job titles and company updates and addresses and things like that. Stephen's a big fan of Clearbit, I know, for data accuracy and enrichment. Like these are the tools that are like really cutting edge and helping us do better work.
Interesting. Tom, as our leader and the leader of MarCloud, what's excited you this year?
Lots of things. Obviously, besides Data Cloud being a brand new toy, I think for me this year, I've always been a big fan of, I bring it up a lot, I don't want to be the window cleaner with dirty windows, that type of thing. So I've been working on MarCloud's Pardot. I still do. So it's about focusing on that inbound marketing approach and sort of dissecting each of the pieces. So for example, technical SEO, we've got a big emphasis on, okay, new website. Let's make sure that A, we rank well on Google. B, our site loads fast. Got a bounce rate down from about 80% down to like 5-ish, just because it's so fast. So that's step one. And then obviously building out our content library and ensuring that once data's in, we then nurture them, scoring and grading the classic stuff and making sure all of that's right. Through to then obviously capturing UTM parameters along the way, and then through to like where in the customer journey are they going next? Like it's all well and good keeping them in Pardot, but like bigger picture stuff. Just sort of looking at Sales Cloud, how they manage. Do we need to push them into Ad Studio? Looking at that integration, and I actually did a webinar on how leads or prospects could be sent originally from Pardot through to Sales Cloud, pushed into Ad Studio, back in, suppressed from an ad audience, whatever you want to name it. And just having that whole journey kind of nice and seamless. So that's been quite exciting from a sort of customer journey mapping perspective from our own instance, that we can then say to clients, look, this is what we're doing, take the bits you like, and then we could build on the bits that aren't in there, and ideas and so on, through to analytics and that side of things. But then some of the smaller updates that I thought are quite good. There's one on domain management, super small update. It's just around iframing of assets that you can block or restrict to certain domains, which I thought was just a really nice update, where if you've got a form, no one can steal that form because it's very easy to do, but you can just keep it on a domain. It will just block if you move it anywhere else, if that makes sense. Nice. A super small update, but I just like those little touches, and you sort of moving around the system, and there's just little enhancements here and there. And then the last one, I guess quite a big update, was the JavaScript API. I think that's what it's called, for the cookies. All of the work around the first party cookie consent and being able to then track people across business units. All of that work is really useful. And that, as a tool, it's really effective, because that's how sort of global organizations use the tool, and they need that. So all of that stuff's quite interesting as well. So covered quite a lot. Lots of things have excited me. I'm very easily pleased.
I was going to say, it seems like you've had a pretty exciting year this year.
Oh, it's been great.
And let's not forget the engagement studio bit as well, like actually wait times and stuff.
Wait times, yeah.
That's been
so I actually put it on LinkedIn. It was the hour wait steps, wasn't it? And then I think it was Bill Fetter. He put a comment and he said, "Oh, it should be minutes." But I thought he was joking, because I was so happy about the hours. And actually you need minutes because X, Y, and Z. And yeah, that would be the next step. So that would be the thing that people want next, is minutes, before it gets too similar to Marketing Cloud potentially. But hours is a great step forward, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Perfect. Triana, I feel like it's almost asking you this question. You've been on mat leave from us for quite some time. I've missed you, by the way.
Thank you. I miss you guys too.
Yeah, what's excited you this year for apart from the personal joy of entering motherhood for the first time?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in terms of stuff that I've done personally, but before going away, what I seem to be working on quite a bit was things around like consent management for a few of my clients. And it's always, it never ceases to amaze me how different it can be. You think you kind of, maybe with one client, you'll establish a process and you're like, ooh, this looks good. Like I can maybe replicate this. But, every company's different. And so you just kind of have to always tweak a little bit. And there was one client, so it sort of made me kind of chuckle on the inside, Stephen, your comment about like documentation. So this client, global client, they couldn't do business units. So everything is under, one Pardot and one Salesforce. And they had already this very, I would say, impressive but scary process of managing consent. And we're talking about like 10 automation rules, 3 engagement studios. Like, it was intense. It took at least a few meetings with the client for them to explain it to me. And they did have some documentation, so hats off to them. But like, it still took a while for them to explain it, show me their documentation, and for me to then look in the system and really understand, like, okay, so how is this one doing this one doing that? And so what I did as part of reviewing, basically the task was to review what they had and to see, like, is this actually working? Because no one's looked at it in a while. Could it be made better? Do we need 11 automation rules, or could we, get away with 5? And so I went into Lucidchart and I basically did my own version of their documentation. I had to kind of, for me, a bit start from scratch and really kind of draw it out and then kind of map that kind of, again, Stephen, to what you said. It's like, okay, so there's this process and, kind of diagram showing what's happening, but then also saying, this is what automation rule number 1 is taking care of. And then going on to the next thing and being like, and this is what automation rule number 2 is doing. So really trying to map through what they had kind of, the way they did it was they listed it out. And it's like, okay, and where does that fit in this diagram? So I was happy, I think, just to kind of be able to create that visual and then also be able to help them figure out, like, okay, this is actually redundant to this, so let's get rid of that one. And hey, this one is missing this piece. You're not actually doing what it's not actually doing what you want it to do. We need to add this in. So that was really good, because and anytime I stepped away from that particular task for too long, I swear I had to spend like an hour reminding myself, like, okay, what's going on? Because it was just so huge. So again, that documentation piece, helpful, but also just being able to kind of get it in my head and help them. That was personal pat on the back.
Well deserved. I think it actually echoes what Laura was saying about data as well. Like, the treat is a one-time event. It's almost like they do the same with any processes put in place. Like you were saying there, no one's asked the question, is 11 automation rules needed? They've done it. It worked possibly at a point in time. So they just kind of left it. No one's kind of just looked at it and gone, is this still working, or is there a better way of doing this? So listeners, please take stock of your house and keep cleaning it, please.
I think that's the hardest thing for people to do, though, right? Like, and I'm sure even in ourselves, maybe we're all, partially guilty, is you do something and you set it up and you kind of leave it and go. And I mean, for me personally, I'd probably have to set quarterly reminders to basically be like, here's a day to review everything. And maybe that's, tip for the audience is, everybody should be on a quarterly basis, just having a bit of a house cleaning day where you look through stuff, look through your templates, look through your automations, and just see what is still actually in use and what isn't. Because as we all know, it's very easy to get out of control and to suddenly end up with thousands of automation rules and engagement programs, or obviously as many as you can have running, and not have, half of them just, no one's been in them for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great tip. And Lucy, you had the pleasure of Dreamforce this year. I was very jealous of all your LinkedIn posts and the pics and whatnot. I imagine that's one of your highlights, but...
Well, it wasn't as glamorous as it looked. We did host 2 parties this year, because we did one in London for World Tour, and then Ben and co. Ben's not be credited for those parties as much as the rest of the team. But yes, we did host 2 big scale parties, which, How can
that not be glamorous, Lucy?
I was going to say, it's not glamorous. We're just also
glamorous when you're writing up news at 4 a.m, sitting in the shower, because the person staying in your room is complaining about you typing on your MacBook. That's how glamorous it gets.
Right. Okay.
Oh my God.
That's the behind the scenes.
No, it's always a chaotic week, but jet lag from the UK always works in our favor. So yeah, we're always up at like 4 a.m, just like typing up news.
I was going to say, where do you think all my articles for you last year came from? That was in the shower.
What?
Not really.
No, I was going to mention you wrote an excellent one about even just at a day-to-day basis identifying potential bot clicks, to what Lara was saying. I can't remember, it was to do with maybe custom redirects and just like...
I think it was the one in the email, wasn't it, Carl?
Yeah, it was one where we effectively just tried to hide it in a full stop that was in a footer somewhere, just make it blatantly obvious that the human eye couldn't detect it, kind of thing. So,
right. Yeah, so just things like that. That's something that someone can implement even in one email and send it out and then go through that. But I really loved what Lara was talking about, data quality. And this is something, obviously, I've heard throughout my career, but I feel like in the past 6 months, it's really upped the ante. And I think a lot of people need to be talking about data quality, even though it's not the sexiest subject, because of Data Cloud. And I feel like I'm currently studying for the cert, which is coming up very soon, but there's so many misconceptions about it. But what I love doing is trying to take the concepts of Data Cloud and comparing it to something that I know in Sales Cloud. So things like duplicate rules, obviously they're not the same, but they can be comparable. So that's how I've tried to learn Data Cloud. We'll see if I pass the cert. The second thing, Tom, with the new website, obviously we've gone through the same thing, SEO. GA4 is still not my best friend, even though we've been using it for a year and a half or so. But yeah, those are the things that have been going on this year for me. Yeah, obviously Dreamforce was a whirlwind. It actually went really, really quickly this year. A whole week went super quickly, and I got to see Lara. So yeah, all good.
Oh, maybe MarCloud on Mask and go next year, Tom.
Yes.
You heard it
Like,
here.
you heard that,
With
Carol. Yeah, we're there.
Did it. Brilliant.
Also, quick tip, book your hotels now. We've booked ours.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
For Dreamforce, book them now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay.
I know, because we put out our updated post about Dreamforce, and we updated it with the 2024 details. And I said, hold on, let me book the hotels before you put that out.
Smart.
Oh gosh.
My goodness.
I feel like that's
Dreamforce is a time where, like, you're traveling for work, and normally I wouldn't expect to share a hotel room with somebody, but Dreamforce is like, okay, let's find somebody, because if they need a roommate and I need a room, like, we'll make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just put a dampener on Stephen's day. Like, that was on his to-do list in the new year, and now it's like, I've got to do it this side of Christmas.
I know. Jeez.
Just make sure it's got a good cancellation policy, Stephen, so like if something goes wrong,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and maybe with no prepay until like
I'm such a last minute
Next
traveler
year.
though. You guys,
you're one of those.
I'm like, I don't pack until like the day of or the day before. So this is already stressing me out.
But hey, on the bright side, let's think about connections as well. I need to do my travel plans for connections, because
There we go.
as well. Yeah. So
There we go.
but not stress you out. Think about connections, then think about Dreamforce.
Great. Now I have two things to worry
Leaving
about.
is coming up, Stephen. You're going to come visit me in Austin, right?
Oh yeah, there we go.
There we
do
go.
that.
It's all good.
God, 2024 is just packed for you, Stephen, already.
I know. Well,
All those travel things you have to plan.
Yeah, I came on this podcast with no plans, and now I'm going off like with a whole calendar of stuff I need to do.
We all want to see you.
Exactly. It's hard being popular, Stephen.
It's just it is what it is.
The player.
Stephen, it sounds like you and I need to organize a UK tour for ourselves.
That'd
We'll
be
see
Definitely.
everyone there.
That'd be fun. I know a lot of folks in the UK, and
Yeah,
that in
right?
Australia too. Although
Yeah.
Australia is a bit of a hike for us.
Talking about time jet
Yeah.
lag.
Yeah.
What you should do is World Tour, definitely. Start planning it now, just to add to your calendar again. Just doing World Tour next year.
You can go
That'd
to
be awesome.
London, come see our new office that we've got in London, and then go up to Liverpool and see MarCloud's office, hitting all the good sites in the UK.
Congratulations
the,
on that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is amazing. Connect with the Pardot user group so that we all get a FaceTime all in one place, get a big group photo.
Nice.
That would be cool. Triana's usually frequent in that one for us. You managed to get down for Halloween though, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Took kiddo with me, probably begrudgingly on his side. He was like, I shouldn't be awake right now. And I was like, look, the baby.
Yeah.
That's the best part, though. Get to show off your pictures.
Exactly. And I got, I had an excuse to put him in the Halloween-y outfit. So, yeah.
As if an excuse was needed.
I know, really. It's not at all.
Cool. Well, I mean, there's actually some good tips come out of that as well. So it sounds like obviously data being a big thing, documentation. By the way, I'm one of the things that I've decided this year is that I'm going to go try and do the solution architect path, and I decided that Notion is going to play a part in that, in the sense of my own like kind of dictionary and diary. I mean, obviously you've got your Salesforce help articles and all that kind of stuff, but then there's like real life experiences that aren't in Salesforce help articles. So rather than trying to remember it all, I was going to try and use Notion to be my kind of table of contents to go elsewhere. So it's funny that's been mentioned twice. But there's been some big announcements and news that has come out of Salesforce this year. So I thought it would be a good opportunity, Lucy, since your resource is probably one of the biggest on the planet and the best in my opinion. So I thought it would be really cool to learn what's been resonating with the market this year. So in terms of the drip, Salesforce Ben, etc., what have been some of the articles and topics that have been at top of mind this year?
You're too kind. You're like making me blush, like British blush. But yeah, I had a feeling this might be asked, and every year we do a summary of the top posts. So yeah,
is this a spoiler alert then?
It is data top 10 from this year that I can give you. But anyway, I think just summarizing it, the main themes have been data cloud. Obviously, just there's been a number of posts, things like, are you ready to invest in it? What skills do you need in your team? What's happening in the future? First steps to enable it, things like that. Because when there was like that freemium announced, a lot of people rushed to do it, to enable it. But really, can you use it is the first question, because there are regional and edition limitations. Should you use it? Because do you actually have use cases for it? And then if you do use freemium, what are you not getting that you might be getting from, all the showcases and things like that? So there are things that you don't get with freemium. So anyway, there was a lot about data cloud, then marketing GPT. That was probably the biggest this year, although I personally haven't got my hands on any of that technology. I don't know if anybody else here has. I lose track of what's GA and what's not. But there were some honorable mentions. So we actually do something called content forecasting. So I see a post, so we track everything through Salesforce, and I go, okay, this piece of content, I predict it will get this many views in the first week. And sometimes it goes under, sometimes it goes over. We just track it through Google Analytics that way. So there were some that got over 250 in forecasting. So this was a bit tongue in cheek, this one, which I was really hesitant to put out, but apparently it caught people's eye. Could Marketing Cloud account engagement be renamed Pardot? Which it actually has some solid points in it, right? I wasn't just doing it.
By the way, before you lay them out, I just the reason I was laughing was Laura looked like you just spat out your drink. Just as it was mentioned there.
No. I mean, I have been accused of clickbait before, but this was not clickbaity. It was like, an actual 1 year on, where are we at with the name change? Things like
Where
that.
do we think we're at with the name change? Are we? This might be a silly question. Are we all on board, or are we still think it's bad?
I think it's happened. Like, I don't think there's any going back now. Yeah, that was
when they took down the Pardot website. Well, when they took down the Pardot website, they lost so much SEO and all the archived blogs and things like that. I think there's no going back. I think it might get renamed because Salesforce has a habit of renaming things. We usually say the word engage in them. For some reason, engage or engagement.
I was just going to say, how many products have engage in them?
Yeah.
They need to diversify on that. Someone needs to get a thesaurus and be like, right, what else could engage, right? What else symbolizes that same kind of meaning?
But on the topic of name changes, obviously it has affected marketing products or capabilities more so than other parts of the platform, I would say, because I did write a glossary of name changes, which came out, a couple of months ago. But yeah, it was quite fun going back and looking at all the different name changes and why they happened, because sometimes it is signifying a real change in technology. But it was in a Dreamforce session. I was watching it virtually, and someone goes, "Where's Salesforce Ben when you need them?" to explain the name changes. And I was like, right, done. So yeah, if you're ever confused about name changes, you can take a look at that. If I've missed any, let me know. Yeah, another one is the account engagement overview for architects. Just, based on the principles of well architected that I've become very interested in recently. Just like, okay, how can we apply these to Pardot? So, account engagement. So things like risk management, latency optimization, things like that. Like, how fast are things working? Are things optimal? Are you just piling too much on, or can something be done more efficiently? So yeah, I won't go into any more details, but that gives you a flavor. There's quite a lot of Marketing Cloud stuff that's been really popular, but all to be revealed.
Oh, very good. So I think on the concept of Data Cloud, that was a huge one for this year, which made me think, Laura, have you got any plans as part of your data cleanup strategy and making sure that the house is on order? Have you got any plans for Data Cloud?
Data Cloud will have to be evaluated by people over my head. So we have a CIO who's very invested. We do have a data lake for different reasons in my company. So all of that just has to play well together. And that's over my head. So I don't have any immediate plans, but it has promise. I did point out the freemium when it came out. I don't know if they took it from there.
I think, interestingly, I feel like everybody is clamoring to get onto that bandwagon. And then I've sat on a few webinars recently where it's kind of gone a bit too far into the weeds, where it's like they're talking activation targets and all the technical kind of stuff. But the questions that Tom, we ran a webinar yesterday, didn't we, we took it back to the very most basic of steps, where it was just a conversation me and Anton were having of what is it first and foremost, and is there even any, and what it isn't as well, because there's a common misconception that it just seems to be a data cleanup tool and stuff. So I feel like there's still this kind of gray area out there that they don't fully understand what it is, and that I think that needs to address, which was our attempt at addressing it yesterday. But I feel like it's a little bit of time away from complete maturity. We just need to understand what it is first, I think.
Absolutely. Sorry, Carl, to interrupt. I just
go for it.
To second what Laura was saying. What was interesting is that I met with someone that was actually on the team developing it. He said that he scribbled some bits on a napkin that became Data Cloud. I mean, that's like a very nice founding story, anecdote, but he was at Salesforce for, decades, working with MDMs and whatever they used to be called since the 80s, right? So he's got a very long tenure. And he said, what's really interesting, this is the key thing that I took away from the conversation. What's really interesting is that Salesforce are now pivoting from Data Cloud with the CMO, the messaging around marketing, to now targeting the CIO. So all of the things like about, can't remember the terms, but it's in a transition phase where they're trying to re-message it to appeal to a CIO. So things like, I have to get out my notes, but I thought that was interesting when Lara said, it's the CIO that's deciding. So I'm like, yes, it has gone from being the CMO to the CIO, but it should be a joint decision at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, totally, for sure. And I think you mentioned there as well, like Marketing GPT, but it's one faction of the whole AI movement, I guess, which, Stephen, you were party to at Dreamforce there. So yeah.
I got on the GPT wagon pretty early on. It's been just over a year, I think. They announced OpenAI kind of became popular, I think, in September of last year. So we've had it for a year. So it's been exciting playing around with it.
What kind of stuff have you been doing with it, just for?
Yeah, so I've been kind of going through this exercise with my team where I'm having them just document all the things that they do manually that just eats up their time and just gives them stress. And then I'm mapping it to solutions with artificial intelligence. And I'll just give you one example. We have a client that uses LinkedIn lead gen forms and Facebook like native forms. So when someone ever, a lead fills those out, there are no pick lists in LinkedIn lead gen forms. They're open text boxes. And when you need geolocation, like state and country values in order to route leads, and the person can just type in whatever they want, you get values all over the place, like to the tune of 60% of the data didn't align with like the business standardization for state codes, country codes, etc. So we were having to basically export this information like every Friday and then do data cleaning and then import it into Salesforce to get 60% of those records to actually get to sales. So we actually implemented just a very simple integration with Zapier, OpenAI, GPT. We fed it the user entered text values and then asked it to standardize it into a specific format. And now we're up to like 98% of clean values that are now getting to sales. Yeah. So like
that's insane.
The time to sales went from like a week and a half because like a whole week had to go by. And then Friday we would do the import, a couple of days for cleaning and another day to, get it into sales. So we went from like a week and a half to sales to like seconds from submission to sales. And then like, of course, there's like 1 or 2% where, either the user didn't put in something or it was just like nonsense, in which case we manually looked at it. But yeah, like that impact increased sales opportunities.
That's incredible. So a week and a half to seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like that's such a simple, unsexy use case for OpenAI.
I'd say that was very sexy.
Well,
I think that's a sexy use case.
You have all these people like building models and stuff and like doing all this crazy things. And I kind of like, okay, that's cool. But like their realistic nature is like, we can't just pump PII data into OpenAI right now, but like just sending us one state code through OpenAI, it's secure. It's not PII data, but it's like the utility of it is just astronomical. So like finding those use cases and starting there is probably what I would recommend. And then like you can work yourself up to something a little bit more complex and just kind of grow with it and see where it goes.
I like to think of this sort of stuff, and I'm not a developer in the same way Stephen is. Like, I will say, when OpenAI launched, he chatted me up. He's like, "Do you have time to jump on a Zoom call with me? I want to show you." And he was like, his mind was blown, and I could see it on the call. It was so funny. So I've been thrilled to see what he's been doing with it in the last year. But like this sort of use of AI, people are concerned about what's going to happen to my job. Is my job going to go away? I like to spin it and be like, hey, what are the boring parts of your job? That's where, marketing automation has its basics is let's get clean data and everything. But what are the boring parts of your job that you hate doing over and over again? Let's enable the tools to do it for you. So it is faster time to market, repeatable, and you can go do more interesting things. You're not going to get replaced as long as you're growing and doing more interesting things and your company can benefit from it. So what can it do for you, for your career, if you outsource the boring stuff to AI?
I read a quote said, AI will not replace your job, but someone using AI will. So if you're not learning it, you're going to be behind, and it's inevitable that all of these job descriptions are going to have prompt engineering or comfortable or familiar with artificial intelligence as a line item that we're going to start to see in the requirements section.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And I think to your point, Lara, as well, I feel like people are only afraid of AI because they don't understand what the alternative is or what the new world is going to be. So they kind of concoct that whole story that it's going to replace jobs, right? But unless they can see what the end goal is, like you've just said there, actually the end goal might be a better job because it takes away all the boring stuff and the repeatable manual tasks that will enable them to do the more exciting stuff. Actually, that's an exciting world to be part of. I think without that lack of understanding, people create the worst use case in the head, and that's where the fear stems from. But there's kind of no need for that really. But no, that's awesome. I'd say that's a pretty awesome use case of AI. I like that.
Sorry, Carl, I just want to also mention, like, it also comes the other way as well. Like for hiring managers, you need to be prepared to talk about what you are doing with AI, the flip side of it. Not only do candidates need to know how to grow with AI, but you also need to know how your organization is growing to AI. Because I was hiring a marketer the other day. She asked me, so how are you using AI tools? Because at the moment I'm encouraged to use them. So are you using any tools? Like, how do you do it? We've now hired her So yeah, but I was able to talk to a lot of experiments that we've done in terms of marketing with AI tools. We've tested a whole bunch, some of them not for us or not quite there. But yeah, I just think just be aware also as a hiring manager, not as a candidate.
Well, if you think about AI helping you get your job done and being more efficient with your time, can you imagine going from one company where you had that as a tool and then another, you change jobs or you look for another, and then you start and you realize you don't have that anymore. Like that's kind of a weird kind of mindset that I think that we're going into. So I'm very excited to see, how this goes. But another very simple use case for AI is just using it for like just writing Salesforce formulas, like, simple things, like simple things like that. Like think of how much time you spend, writing documentation or, I used it the other day for something silly. I'm like, I wonder if it could do this. I got a wireframe of an integration. I think it was from, I don't know, some one of the mapping tools, not Miro, which is what we use. And I literally took the PDF and I just threw it into OpenAI and I said, can you write like text documentation based off of this PDF? And it output 4 pages of technical documentation based off of a PDF I uploaded from a client. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this saved me like 2 hours.
Was it accurate is my question. Or was it just
spent at least an hour reviewing it and making sure it
100% I did. Yeah, absolutely. But like, it's like the best intern you could ask for, right? Like it got that V1 draft for me. And then I didn't have to spend all those mental calories trying to figure out, putting pen to paper of the first one. And then also spending an additional hour and a half, 2 hours editing my own work. So editing someone else's work, I feel like is always a little bit easier. But having it as like a launching point has been invaluable.
That's insane. Well, just for now, unfortunately, I have to announce that Triana has been very gracious with her time, but you have to leave the call right now.
I do, yes. Sorry, guys. I'd love to stick around and chat more, but yeah, I have to scoot, unfortunately.
No worries.
Yeah, but it's been a pleasure, and yeah, look forward to seeing you all soon.
Thanks so much, Triana. Merry Christmas. See you soon.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Tom, in terms of news this year for you, what's got you excited?
It's got to be Data Cloud. I second Data Cloud. Yeah, I think for us, it's obviously Data Cloud being a new service line that we're actually working on, which is a new exciting area that we're sort of creating proof of concepts for and sort of, again, going slowly like you did yesterday with the webinar saying, very slowly, this is what it is, this is what it isn't. We're not trying to jump in the deep end saying, look, we're experts, we can do all sorts of things because it's a new tool. We're saying, let's start at the beginning, proof of concepts and build outwards and sort of see, how far we can push it. Alongside some other things that we're doing, which I can't share too much information on this, but we're doing some things with the Pardot API at the moment. And we're building tools and assets on the MarCloud technology side, probably as far as I can go with it before I get told off by Anton. But essentially, we're doing some clever things there which will make people's lives a lot easier when they're using Pardot, some new cool ways to use the platform, speed up, again, rather than using AI, there's still expertise behind it where we can use our consulting knowledge where we're seeing lots of different accounts and then packaging things up. That's a big thing for us at the moment, packaging solutions, whether it be the UTM tracking solution that we've got, or it could be some sort of implementing a new tool for managing engagement studios or whatever it is. We're focusing on packaging solutions and making people's lives easier on the platform, going back to basics and, not as sexy, some of it, like we've been talking about on the call, some of it just simple stuff that might take someone 2, 3, 4 hours to do. And it's just removing that and then taking a couple of minutes, not in an AI way, in a consulting, using our knowledge, packaging it up that type of way. Because I still think there's a need for that. AI is brilliant for certain things, but there will forever be a need, in my opinion, for consultants who are highly experienced, have seen loads of different things, can apply it to different industries within context. I think that's sort of fundamental to what we do. I think there will always be a need for people like us driving things forward. It won't ever be a case where there's an AI consultancy and no one works there. That would be a future thing for the year 3000 type thing. But that's what's exciting me. In terms of like future vision, I mean, you talk about ideas for things to implement in the platform. One of them that I think would be quite cool, given the name's account engagement, is to have some sort of account hierarchy map within Pardot, or within account engagement. Something kind of like a tool called Squiver. where you can sort of just visualize and see, okay, this is the account. It's a very big company. It's like Amazon, for example. And visually within Pardot, you can go to a tab or however they design it, and you can see all of the people related that work there, because we know there's related emails. We know that exists. But just to sort of tier it, this is this business unit, this is the account as I see it. And then for some functionality within account engagement to be able to lean on that and say, target this portion of that account. That would be kind of cool. How they build that, I don't know, but that would be an interesting feature to add into the tool. If it's called account engagement, it has to have some sort of element of
let
that.
JP from Squiver know.
Yes, please.
You can
Salesforce can buy them, and then yeah.
JP, who founded Squiver, he's a great guy. Always open for ideas. So yeah.
Cool. You've kind of nicely segued into the last section of the podcast, I guess. So if Santa was to come and deliver you guys some presents in the form of new features, what would you hope to open on Christmas Day? And we're going to throw this over to Lara first. So what would you want them open Christmas Day?
I would love Engagement Studio wait times to be not just on emails, but on other steps or even an independent wait step. So right now we have the release was that we can wait in hours on emails. So don't send an email for 4 hours. I would love to put a step in Engagement Studio, which is wait 4 hours and then evaluate if it meets this rule. So it's a yellow step, a logic check step. I would love to have that opportunity where I can put something at the very start of my Engagement Studio and say, like, let Pardot engagement, I said it wrong, account engagement run some of my other matching in the background, for 4 hours or something like that before you evaluate the rest of these things. I would love some sort of independent step that doesn't involve sending email.
It's almost, do you think there's scope to, essentially what we want is to have Engagement Studio mimic more like Journey Builder in Marketing Cloud, because you do have some of that functionality in Marketing Cloud. Yeah.
And other competitors too have weights that are independent of other steps. So, for example, one of my common tricks for Engagement Studio is I'm not going to wait for somebody to write 6 emails for me to build a nurture program. If you have 2, I'm going to launch it with 2. And then I'm going to put at the very bottom a step that's something like apply tag, but wait 90 days before you apply that tag. So I've just built in a fake wait period. I would like to just be able to put in a wait period so that I have time to build the rest of my assets, my emails that are going to go in, but I can launch the program, in the meantime. I would love to have just some sort of independent wait period that doesn't have to be dependent on a fake task for Engagement Studio to do.
That would be cool. That would be cool, actually. Yeah. I would love to see, because I'm a big fan of Journey Builder in Marketing Cloud, so I would love to see account engagement reach that kind of level in terms of what you can do within the journey. So I'm all for that. That would be a good present. That would be good.
It would make things so much easier for everything easier, but even for like SaaS companies. So for example, someone signs up to their platform, an external platform, and you have to wait for them to update their details or to wait for them to do something on that platform as part of onboarding to then pass them to the next step. We've seen countless examples of that, and to be able to add the wait step to the rule, such a simple improvement, would open so many doors for things like that, where there's actual stages and a process. Right, you've done step 1. Okay, now you get onto this series of this onboarding series. Now you move on to the next step. That would all become a lot more sort of viable with that one feature. So I agree. I back that. I vote for that one.
We concur. Stephen, what does your present look like on Christmas morning?
Do I just have to pick one? I have so many. So there's
always that one kid that has like a Christmas list that's like,
yeah,
and you happen to be it on this call.
Yeah, that's, what it is. I would like there to be either webhook or HTTP callout functionality within automation rules. I think that from an integration perspective, form handlers are great. The Salesforce baking that into flows on the Salesforce side, I think, was super smart. Getting that functionality, at least in beta or something on the Pardot side, I think would be awesome. It would create a lot more utility for Pardot and being able to leverage all these other amazing tools that we've brought up. Communication limits is another one that I'd love to see within Pardot. Right now, you kind of have to build like a dynamic list that says has been emailed X amount of time over so many days. I'd love it at like the account level or the business unit level, where you don't have to always remember to add that suppression list within Pardot. And then I'd say like callable engagement studio programs would be neat. So like Tom and Lara were saying, where let's say you have an onboarding program, which I think someone mentioned, like they go through the onboarding emails and maybe there's 5 more emails, but they've already done what you've asked them to. Instead of having to like deal with like adding the list, removing the lists and using lists as a way to move someone throughout like the different programs, just saying, you know what, remove from this program, add to the next program. And then moving them down the funnel. And my cheeky one will be just removing multi-select pick lists from all systems everywhere.
Def to multi-selects.
Oh, Lucy just looks like I just like.
I was going to say.
No.
Like you just shot a multi-select pick list.
They are useful for users in some circumstances. Reporting, nightmare. Yeah. Integrations, nightmare. I agree in some respects. But for me, the multi-select is so good for what we need it for. So
right, I'll take it back just for you and for users.
What is the alternative though? Like, what would be the alternative?
Check boxes.
Okay.
Are not check boxes?
Okay, fine. I don't know if you want to hear my thoughts.
I was going to say, why don't we just leave that one? Leave that there.
We're going to take this offline.
What are you talking about? This is the first podcast of 24. Lucy versus Stephen.
Ooh. Multi-select pick lists versus checkboxes. Yeah.
I'm going to rally the troops.
That's it. Let's do it.
We can do the showdown Pardot tags with Erin as well. She's like, I like tags. I don't like tags.
Yeah, I did one. We did
a user
group. Yeah, we did a user group a few years ago that was tags versus lists, and that caused such a stir. Yeah, anyway, something so simple, multi-select pick list. But yes, I understand the repercussions that are with that. But in the UI, it's fine. If you need to do anything else with it, we'll get to that another time. I don't actually have anything that I'd want to open. I think there's a lot that will be happening in the future in terms of marketing GPT or Einstein 1 for marketing, whatever it is now. But one thing that I am going to be working on in Q1 is integrating Google Analytics with Salesforce in mass. So there's a lot of there's a massive data. We've got 3,000 pages on the site, right? How do we make sure that we're putting in what we need? So yeah, that's going to be an interesting one for me. Lots of decisions to be made. So yeah, maybe just something that I can do that more easily. We'll see. We'll see what route we go down with it.
Cool.
I'll take your space and I'll add more to my list because I've written a big list. I'm that kid too.
Here we go.
Go on, Tom.
First one, which has been a big one for years, is custom notifications. The customizable notifications in Pardot.
Yes.
And I know that the large majority of people will have already found other solutions for this. For example, we're big users of Slack. So we use what I thought was brilliant was this Slack notification from a form completion action. That's great. We use that all the time. But the email one, it'd be great to customize it and not have that standard system one, which looks terrible and it's just really long in most cases. I'd like to handle multiple languages better, which would be nice. I know that HubSpot do this. I said the H word, sorry. They do it quite well, and Pardot needs to get better at that because there's so many global clients that just use this and need that language functionality. That doesn't just mean duplicating a bunch of different assets just for the sake of a different language or a footer or a different, whatever it is, phone number. Next one is just time-based actions. We kind of alluded to it on the hour, definitely in Engagement Studio, but just in general, handling dates and times is a little bit tricky sometimes. And there's often workarounds and trying to get things to fire, sometimes with a tag. I like tags for using it as a mechanism to cause other things to happen. That's where I love tags on that topic. And yeah, that's my list.
Cool.
But now there's probably more, but
I'll add things too, with the thought of it is called account engagement. I'd love to see some account things available. We are 6 Sense customers at my company, so I would love to see some of these account level insights from the Pardot account engagement product. So, at the account level, rolling up the score of, activity, but also the kind of the black box algorithms that perhaps are AI driven that say like, yes, reach out to this account right now, but also AI driven insights from, Pardot Einstein or whatever that are like, why don't you run a competitor takeaway program and do it with this audience versus what it can kind of do, which is, oh, you had great insights with this thing you already ran and it was opened by X number of people with this sort of job title, like the insights that you don't think to look for, it can surface that. But I would love it if it could actually suggest, campaigns for a segment that it prepares for you. That's super AI wish list.
That would be cool. I think for me, what would be really cool is if they could put a user interface over AmpScript of Marketing Cloud. So I think AmpScript is such like a niche coding language, right? That it's not like trying to find a JavaScript developer, which is an industry standard kind of language. Finding someone who knows SQL, AmpScript, JavaScript, HTML, CSS is almost like you're almost asking for a unicorn. But there are tools out there that have like a front end for SQL. It'd be super cool if you could have like a front end for AmpScript and allow the end user to be able to, actually design something and pick which data extension they want to call upon and all that kind of stuff. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I totally agree, Carl. And as I was going through the top posts from this year, one was flagged that was like learning AmpScript. It was called like expectations versus reality. And number one, like tip on that was find some visual interface you can use. So yeah, if that's built into Marketing Cloud, I'm sure, like you, many people would benefit from it.
Yeah, that would be cool.
You're not alone in that.
No, that's good. Well, perfect. Everybody, thank you so much for your time. I really, really do appreciate that. And to all listeners as well, Merry Christmas. We'll be back in the new year. We're going to have more guests on the podcast as well. But for now, everybody, just thank you so much for your time and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.